Luke Doonan, property and social housing expert. I don't know whether you've seen the clip, Luke, as well as hearing it just there. The gasps from the MPs around the sort of moon-shaped or crescent-shaped desk that he was sitting in front of were very audible, and the facial expressions were interesting as well. Is this simply not true?
I did see it, and hello, Sheila, by the way. I'm absolutely stunned, and I'm incredibly, you know how passionate I am, I'm incredibly angry that the leader of the Labour Party and the Prime Minister of our great country, I mean, not only did he just lie, and he knows full well, and I'll give you some figures in a minute because I've done a bit of work on it this morning. I'm actually making a short film about this right now, and he lied, and he's gaslighting our country, and maybe he was just trying to bluff and get through the questions. But I think that, if in all honesty, is one of the biggest mistakes and gaffes that I've seen him make since he's been in power. And it's incredibly insulting to anyone in this country. And I don't care where you come from or who you are, colour, creed or whatever. For anyone who is crammed in temporary, awful accommodation that used to be a car park where big, rich developers have gone in and cut them up into studio flats, some of them so small, the doorways are so small, Sheila. I mean, the parents can't get their buggies through the doorway. So for him to say that is an absolute insult and a lie.
He did say as well, didn't he, in that little clip we played, that we're talking with local authorities now about what's possible. Well, what's your sense of what's possible? Because even before you talk about housing migrants who arrive on boats, we know that there are, thousands actually, of children in temporary accommodation.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's not a nice three-bedroomed house typically. That is a hostel or a hotel or a B&B. So I'm just at a loss as to what he thought he was alluding to.
So can I run a couple of figures by you?
Yes, please do.
Just to make things clear for the callers. So the homelessness bill from April 23, I'm not talking anything to do with asylum here, just the homeless bill where people arrive at local authorities throughout the whole of the UK and they are put in very temporary, and I'll come back to that in a minute, accommodation, many not fit for purpose. The figures from April 23 to March 24 shows an increase of the homelessness bill of 29%. And over the last 5 years, the homelessness bill has gone up 97%. For me, that is utter madness. I don't think there are any local authorities, or very few, certainly not in London and any major cities, that have council housing stock to give. And that's a fact. We all know that. There's no long-term council or social housing plan with any borough or with the government, and that is what is causing this problem. Just one more thing, 78 million of that amount over the last 5 years has been given to private B&Bs and hostels that are absolutely not suitable for children or families. You have children, and this makes my blood boil, you have children playing in dangerous car parks on main roads up and down the country.
I spoke a while back to a woman. She was in full-time employment, had a car, lost her accommodation because she had to flee it because of domestic violence, was in temporary accommodation and was finding herself every other night routinely in the car till sort of 1 a.m, 2 a.m, waiting for the call to say where she and her 7-year-old daughter would go. Yep. Daughter's asleep in the car at 1, 2 a.m, and they end up in hostels full of men they don't know, inappropriate for a woman in that situation.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things here, some of the research I'm doing into this film I'm making, I'm in the process of visiting every borough in across London at least, and I'll hopefully do Manchester and Birmingham. What I found, I'll give you an example. Newham Council and Tower Hamlets Council made promises back to excite everyone for the wonderful Olympic Games that we had back in 2012. There are hundreds of tower blocks across those and other boroughs that are perfectly fit for purpose, that just need a little work, that some of them have been empty since the Olympics. So we're talking 13 years. They're concrete, well-built, solid blocks, a bit like, the Barbican Centre, but they've been left to rack and ruin, and they're sitting on them as land banks to sell to private developers. My advice and view to the government is, why don't you take a longer term plan, take over those properties and house people in decent, if basic, accommodation instead of hotels, and house people, certainly the homeless people with children that really, really, really need a hand. We're talking, I see lots of women that are leaving abusive relationships, lots of rape victims. They have children, and all they want to do is have a home and somewhere decent to bring up their children.
Well, you would take decent and basic, wouldn't you, over a
100%.
Shabby hostel or something, yeah. Luke, I must leave it there, but thank you for joining me today to talk about this. Luke Doonan, property and social housing expert.